Hello everyone and welcome back to my World of Tanks Xbox 360 Tank Guide. Today we are going to be talking about the T92 Tier 10 SPG. This tank has the biggest gun in the game, capable of one-shotting any tank in the game. So let's talk about this tank whenever you unlock it. Whenever you unlock this tank, everything is unlocked on this tank. No research is required. The gun that you're going to get is a 240mm howitzer M1, biggest gun in the game. The engine is going to be a Tier 6 Ford GAF T92. The suspension that you're going to get is a T92 T80E1. And your radio is going to be a Tier 10 SCR 528A. So, what is the perks of this tank? Well, the perks are, it is capable of one-shotting any tank. Does very good amounts of damage. Has a very good explosive radius. So even if you miss your target, if you are off, you have still a good chance to do damage to your enemy. It has the biggest explosive radius in the game. That's pretty much all I can say for the perks of this tank. Now let's talk about the downfalls of this tank. Downfalls of this tank is it has a Tier 6 engine. You are slow. It's going to take you a while to get in position. You basically, at the beginning of the match, you're going to have to find a good spot and stay there. You're going to have to look at the map to see where your team is going. If everyone goes to one side of the map, you're going to have to kind of follow them because the other flank is going to be wide open. The enemy's going to come right around. You're going to die. You don't have the speed to run away. Very, very slow tank. Very hard to get in position. Most of the time when I'm in this tank and I'm trying to get in position, enemies are already lit up. I mean, I already have my gun loaded, but I'm just not in position yet. Because the tank is so slow. Another downfall of this tank, the accuracy. The accuracy on this gun is pretty bad. There could be a tank sitting right there, not even moving. You have your sights locked in, completely zoomed in, you fire, and the shot just goes God knows where. That's one of the downfalls of this tank. This tank does not have great gun depression. It does have a somewhat pretty good firing arc. You're not going to be able to fire over some hills, but it's not like the British artillery. British SPGs have very good gun arcs. They can fire over mountains and rocks and stuff that other SPGs can't. That's pretty much the downfalls of this tank. Slow reload time also. You're only going to get off 2 shots a minute. Very slow aiming time as well. The gun moves fairly well for an SPG. I mean, the gun does have mobility from side to side. About like this maybe, so you'll be able to fire on tanks without transversing your tank too much, but you are going to transverse this tank while firing. Now with that in mind, let's talk about the stats of this tank. This tank gets 500 hit points. You have no health at all. You might be able to take 1 hit, sometimes 2, depending what's firing at you. If a light tank is on you, you might be able to take 3 hits. The signal range, we're not even going to talk about signal range. It's Tier 10 radio, 750 meter standard. The speed limit of this tank, like I said, is slow. Your speed limit is going to be 32.2 kilometers per hour. Do not expect to get up to that speed at all. It's going to take you a long time to get up to that speed. The only way you're going to get up to that speed is if you're going downhill. I hardly ever hit 32.2 kilometers per hour, but this tank is capable of doing it, but it's going to take a really long time because of your tier 6 engine. Speed limit backwards is also horrible, 10 kilometers per hour. Don't expect to get up to that either, more like 5 kilometers per hour. The weight of this tank is 57.844 tons. Way too heavy for a tier 6 engine. Load limit is going to be 61 tons on this tank. Let's talk about the crew for this tank. Now you're going to get a commander, a gunner, driver, radio operator, and 2 loaders. The shells in this tank are so big, you're going to need 2 loaders in this tank. If not, it would take you forever to reload this tank. Now, let's talk about the hull armor. None to speak of, really. You're going to get 25.4 millimeters in the front, 25.4 millimeters on the side, 12.7 millimeters in the rear. Everything is going to penetrate your tank. The only way you're ricocheting a shot is if someone hits you in the gun, your tracks hit it, they try and hit your lower glacis maybe, you might bounce off your lower glacis or hit this upper part, this upper plate. But do not expect to ricochet anything. You get spotted, expect to die. The engine power, 500 horses. Bad. Horsepower to weight ratio, 8.64 horsepower to ton ratio, horrible. Transverse speed, 26 degrees per second, horrible. Everything's going to be able to circle you in this tank. Heavy tanks, tank destroyers, light tanks, medium tanks, everything will be able to get around you. Chance of fire in this tank is average, 20% chance of fire, but who cares? You don't have any health anyway, so you get set on fire, let yourself burn, it ain't gonna matter. Let's talk about the view range. The view range is 400 meters. Pretty much standard on all tier 10 tanks, so if you're stationary and you're not moving, you have a pretty good chance of spotting your target if you're hidden behind a bush or something. Now you can get that view range up with Brothers in Arms and Recon and Situational Awareness, other perks and skills and equipment. The transverse arc, that's moving the gun from side to side, fairly average for an SPG. You get about 12 degrees on both sides. Yeah, let's talk about the ammo for this tank. Now, this tank comes with high explosive rounds, armor piercing rounds, and the HE premium rounds. Now, your HE is going to do an average of 2,250 hit points if you hit a target directly. You hit their weak spots. That's not saying every time you hit a tank you're going to do 2,250 hit points. I mean, I fire this gun, most of the time I do around 700, 600 hit points. Sometimes if I completely miss the target and just do splash damage, sometimes 80 or 100 or 200, it all depends. Now this has excellent splash radius, 8.13 meters. That is exceptional. So if you miss a tank, you don't even really have to worry about hitting a tank to do damage to them. I mean, it hits the ground. I mean, if you hit right next to their tank, you're going to do like 500 hit points to them. But I mean, if it's even slightly off. I mean, if it's more than that, say it's 5 meters off, you'll do damage to them. I mean, the HE premium rounds also do 2,005 or 2,250 hit points, but the difference is the high explosive premium rounds have a higher explosive radius. You're going to get 11.64 meters. That is ridiculous for an artillery. That shot doesn't even have to come close. Now in my tank I load 2 high explosive premium rounds. Now I load those for whenever an enemy is maybe capping a base, and I'll fire in one location and see if they're there, because it has an explosive radius of 11.64 meters. So all you gotta do is just do damage. I mean, you don't even have to do damage, you just have to like hit a module, like maybe like knock off their tracks. That's what the high explosive premium rounds are good for. Can't see a target, enemy is about almost ready to cap the base, fire a shot in there, hopefully your shot hits. Let's talk about the armor piercing round. The armor piercing round does an average of 1,800 hit points. Now that has no explosive rate. It's not an explosive shell, it's just your standard armor piercing shell. I typically do not load armor piercing rounds. I load them just to have fun in the tank. It's fun hitting a tank and doing 1,800 to like over 2,000 hit points to a tank. I've one-shotted an E1. I've one-shotted E100s with armor piercing rounds. Now let's talk about the penetration of these shells. Now the HE and the HE premium shell are each going to get 120 millimeters of armor penetration. So that's pretty good. If your shot hits directly on top of their tank and doesn't really hit the side of their tank, hits directly on top, or it hits a weak point, you're going to do your max damage. The shell has to penetrate to do your 2,250 hit points or higher. Now the armor piercing rounds get 370 millimeters of penetration. You're going to be able to penetrate everything with the armor piercing rounds. I have ricocheted, but that was because the shot like barely missed. You know, it was a wild shot. Like I said, this gun has horrible accuracy. Now let's talk about the shell price. Your high explosive is going to cost you 2,500 silver. Your armor piercing rounds are also going to cost you 2,500. Now these high explosive premium rounds are very expensive, 8,000 silver. That's why I only load 2. As you can see right now, I have 7 high explosives, 7 armor piercing. You know, I'm just playing around. Usually the best thing to do in this tank is load all high explosive, 2 premium high explosive rounds. You're not going to fire off all your shots in this tank. If you do, it is a very long battle, which rarely happens. I think I've only fired off all my shots in my tank in a battle in my T92, and it was basically the final kill. With my final shot in this tank. You will get lots of bombardier medals in this tank. When tanks are cluttered together, this is what this tank is good at. This tank, when you hit a tank, it has such a high explosive radius. Any tanks that are near that tank, they're going to take damage as well. I don't know how many tanks that I've destroyed on multiple. I've destroyed 2 tanks, 3 tanks, 4 tanks before with just one shot. This is what this tank is capable of doing. Very, very good. Let's talk about the shell speed. Your high explosive, armor piercing, and high explosive premium rounds all have a shell speed of 460 meters per second. So that's just giving you a heads up of maybe how far, if a target is moving, how far you need to lead your target to hit them. Your shell's only going to travel 460 meters per second. very slow. Let's talk about the damage per minute. Now, when you're firing your high explosive rounds, you're going to be able to do 2,542.5 hit points per minute. That's what this tank is capable of doing. That's most of the time you are not going to do that in this tank at all. Your armor piercing rounds have the capability of doing 2,034 hit points per minute. That's why I say load your high explosive rounds. Don't load any armor piercing rounds unless you just plan on having fun in your artillery, just for shits and giggles. Let's talk about the rate of fire on this tank. Like I said, the rate of fire on this tank is bad. 1.13 rounds per minute. Your reload time is going to be about 53 seconds. Now that's without a gun rammer, 100% crew, anything like that. No brothers in arms, no equipment. Now you can get that reload time down significantly. I think maybe it takes me about now don't quote me on this. I think it maybe takes me about around 40 seconds to reload my gun. So you can get that reload time down. Now let's talk about the accuracy. Now this is what I was talking about. The accuracy on this gun is horrible. 0.92 meters. That's like from 100 meters out. Accuracy is 0.92 meters. Horrible, horrible, horrible accuracy. I believe this may be like the worst accurate SPG in the game, but it does make up for it with the biggest gun in the game. It's fun shotgunning tanks with this tank. This tank is very good at shotgunning. Very, very good. Let's talk about the aim time. 8-second aim time. So it's gonna take you a little while to aim in on a target. So, you know, you fire a shot, reload, you should already be aimed in on your next target by the time you reload, so that's always a good thing. Now, like I said, let's talk about the gun elevation and the gun arc. Like I said, this tank has no gun depression. No gun depression at all. 0 degrees of gun depression. This right here is your gun depression. So smaller tanks, you're not going to be able to shoot down at them at all. If they get up close in your face, you're going to be able to hit tall targets, but if a little target gets right up on you, you're done for. The gun arc, gun elevation, 65 degrees. Oh, pretty good. All right. You're going to be able to fire over some obstacles. Not too many like the British artillery, but you'll be able to fire over some obstacles and do splash damage to targets. Let's talk about the ammo capacity. You're going to get 16 rounds in this tank to carry. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to remember, this tank only fires at a rate of 1.13 rounds a minute. Now, I have fired off all 16 rounds before, so in a match, but like I said, it's going to have to go the full length of the battle, and you're going to have to be constantly firing your gun for that to happen. I rarely run out of ammo in this tank. Let's talk about the camo value of this tank. Now these camo values are without hiding behind a bush. When you're hiding behind bushes and other stuff, your camo value goes up dramatically. This is just sitting out in the open without hiding behind any cover. While stationary, your camo value is only going to be 2.5%. Horrible, horrible, horrible camo value. While in motion, you're only going to get 1% camo value, so you don't want to be moving around too much in this tank. You know, fire a shot, move just a little bit, just in case there's other artillery trying to find your position to where you fired. Now, whenever you fire this gun, kiss your camo value goodbye. It's 0.13% camo value whenever you fire the gun. Your camo value goes out the drain whenever you fire this gun, unless you're hiding behind a bush or something, but even then you have a pretty good chance of getting spotted. So with that in mind, let's talk about the battle performance of this tank for people using this tank without being platoons, just playing standard by yourself. This is for the average player. The average player, your accuracy hitting a target directly is only going to be 32.5%. That means a direct hit. That's not splash damage. Direct hit on a tank. Accuracy 32.5%. The win rate in this tank is going to be 46.6%. I mean, you really don't have any control over the battle when you're playing an SPG. You're just shooting at targets that are lit up, trying to support your team, shooting at the most threatening targets to your team, such as the tier 10 tanks. You want to knock out the tier 10 tanks first, or the more heavily armored lower tanks, so like an E75 or an STI, or then maybe an M103, T95s. You know, you want to fire at the most threatening tanks with this tank. Your damage dealt for an average battle is going to only be 1,771 damage dealt for the average player using this tank, playing solo. Your kills per battle is going to be close to 1 kill per battle. It's going to be a little less, 0.94 kill per battle. Only because this tank does have the capability of one-shotting any tank. Now, let's talk about the equipment that you want to put on this tank. You're going to want a large caliber artillery shell rammer. This is going to help your reload time. Very, very good equipment to have. You're going to need this on all your artillery. Gun rammer on all artillery. You're going to need binocular telescope on this tank. It's going to add plus 25% to your view range. Very, very good for trying to hide if you're one of the few tanks remaining on your team. You're going to be able to spot your enemy before they spot you. You may want to go for a camo net. I don't bother with a camo net. You hardly have any camo value in this tank. It's pointless. I see people putting camouflage nets on their artillery. Don't do it. I mean, you can, but you have to have a better camo value. Or maybe the lower tiered artillery you want camo, but not in this T92. It's not going to be helpful putting a camo net on this tank. Binocular telescope is what you want. And then you're going to want an enhanced gun laying drive. This is going to add 10% to your aiming speed, so you're going to be able to get that 8-second aiming time down significantly. You may be with 100% crew, enhanced gun laying drive, brothers in arms, and other skills and perks such as maybe snapshot and stuff like that. You'll be able to get it down to probably maybe 7 seconds or less. So that's that for the equipment. I would not put anything else on this tank. Now let's talk about the consumables. Like I said, you want to load all. If you are a serious artillery player, you know, I just usually play these for shits and giggles. But if you're a serious artillery player, you want to load all high explosive shells in this tank. And then you want to load maybe 2 to 3 premium high explosive rounds, no armor piercing rounds. Supplies aren't really going to matter. You know, this is just the standard that I put on my tank. You don't want a manual fire extinguisher. You don't want any type of fire extinguisher on this tank. I mean, you get set on fire, just let yourself burn. You're going to die anyway. But a small repair kit or a large repair kit wouldn't be bad. A small first aid kit or a large first aid kit won't be bad. I mean, you do not have any armor. Crews and stuff like that are going to get knocked out all the time. Now, I would go for case of cola instead of the fire extinguisher or automatic fire extinguisher. Do not put a fire extinguisher or automatic fire extinguisher on this tank. I would probably go with case of cola if you can afford it. It's going to add 10% to all your crew skills for the course of the battle. So it's going to help with your accuracy of your gun. It's going to help with your reload speed. You're probably going to be able to fire off 2 rounds per minute. That's why I said I usually load case of cola in my tank, and I'm usually able to almost able to fire off 2 rounds a minute. That's going to help with the speed of your tank. It's going to help with the camo value of your tank, you know, the view range of your tank. It's going to add everything to your tank. Case of cola is what you're going to want. Large repair kit, large first aid kit, case of cola. But I probably wouldn't even load a large first aid kit or a large repair kit because you don't have that many hit points. You probably more than likely want to go with a small repair kit and a small first aid kit. And case of cola. But if you do not have the money for case of cola, automatic fire extinguisher or just a manual fire extinguisher. It's the cheapest, 3,000 silver. Now, if you put camouflage on this tank, you go and buy camouflage for this tank. I don't have any on this right now. I usually wait for discount prices for camouflage, and then I spend gold, like 130 gold, 120 gold for the camouflage to make it permanent, and so forth. But if you add camouflage to this tank, it's going to help your camo value a lot. You're going to need it if you're in an SPG. But with that in mind, I'm going to leave you one game replay. We do win this battle. But I'm going to show you that I show you this replay because I want to show you what this tank's gun can do whenever it hits a tank directly. In this battle, I one-shot 2 tanks. And then I'm also showing you this replay just to show you the accuracy of this gun. You'll see me completely locked in on a target and the shot completely misses. It's going to show you this map that I'm going to show you in this match. It shows you all the strengths and perks of this tank, of what it's going to be able to what you're going to expect when you get this tank. Now, in this battle, I do happen to make a lot of silver, but that's because, you know, my team was great. My gun did what it was supposed to do, and I was able to make a lot of silver. Now, don't expect to make silver most of the time in this tank. I would say on average, maybe 60% of the time, you're either going to lose silver or you're going to barely make any silver at all. Maybe 1 to 2,000 silver. Depending on how your team does. So, with that in mind, I'm going to show you this replay. I will be commentarying it to let you know what I was thinking at the moment in time. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, here we are on Pearl River. This is a standard battle. Now, I am in the T92 artillery. Now, I feel like this map is somewhat kind of difficult for artillery. Only because the majority of the tanks go in the center, and there are extremely good spots for the enemy team to hide behind all the mountains and rocks and cliffs. But starting off in the match, I take a look at the map. It doesn't really matter. I'm just used to looking at the map to see what enemies there are. I want to check out to see what my main targets are going to be. Now, you're going to check out the speed of this tank. As you can see, I'm getting up to somewhat a pretty good speed. Now, going up this hill, I am going to slow down. I'm trying to get into a position for my team to support them, I feel like going up here, I've had very good success in the spot that I'm going to be going in my artillery. Now this is the only artillery that I do have. This is the only line that I have progressed down. But as you can see, you guys saw the reload time there. You guys can see what the reload time is that I have this tank down to. Now I'm in position. Now I know the majority of tanks come down here. Now there's already been a couple of tanks spotted. There's a light tank spotted. I don't know exactly where the enemy is going to come from. Now I see there's some medium tanks. Now I know I can get shots down on this cliffside if they are positioned in certain spots. So I'm going to try and help out my team. Now I'm going to keep an eye on these artillery. Now I'll hull lock my tank because I don't want my tank to transverse while I'm trying to aim, because that'll make my reticle get big again. So now I'm sitting and waiting for them to light up. Now I know this medium tank's coming up here. It's just a matter of time when he's going to get spotted, because these other tanks you're trying to work around are going to spot him. And there he is. Don't have a shot. My shot is obstructed. I'm just hoping that he comes out. I fire. Blam! Baby. One shot. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Dead. Right now, he's got to be pissed. I know I would be. Now, here I see a medium tank, and then Yag Tiger. Spotted. Very dangerous tank, so I'm going to try and take him out. Very dangerous tank. I'm waiting to reload. 13 seconds to go. Now, if I can take him out, I'm pretty sure my other team will be able to push around. I'm fully zoomed in. My reticle isn't going to move. I fire. He moves forward. Oh, one shot. That is what this gun is capable of doing. That dude has to be livid. Now here, now my team can push. I see there's an artillery there. I go and take a look. I'm not going to fire at him, but I'm just looking at. I'm just sitting there thinking, what the heck is there an artillery doing there? But here I see there's an E100. I'm trying to reload. I'm trying to see if I can get a shot on him, but I can't get a shot on him because of this ridge line here of the cliff. My shot is just going to hit this cliff edge here. Now if he pulls a little bit more forward, I'll be able to get a shot, but I know that there was a tank destroyer spotted earlier, I believe, so I'm trying to look for him to see if he gets spotted. I don't see him right now. I don't know what it is. I'm just trying to pay attention to the C-100. And there's the tank destroyer. And I just now realize it, and it's a Waffenträger off E-100. Now, if I can hit him, he'll also be a one-shot. He has basically no armor at all. But like I said, you saw what this 240mm howitzer gun can do if it is on target. It is capable of killing with one shot. I mean, this tank is going to help out your team with those tougher tanks. Now, I'm trying to help out this medium tank here. I'm waiting to zoom in, fire, finish off the E100, even though it was only for a couple of 100 points. Not going to worry about that light tank. He's basically dead. So now I'm going to move over to the other side and help support my other team over here. Now I see that there's a tortoise. I'm waiting to reload. He's in somewhat of a pretty good position. Now I see that there's a Waffenträger Panzer IV. I have to hull lock my tank and hull lock it again. And I'm zooming in. My tank reloads before I'm fully zoomed in. Now I'm fully zoomed in. I fire. Now watch the accuracy of this gun. Shot not even close. This is what this gun can do to you. It controls you. 0.92 accuracy. All I had to do was get that shell close to him, and I probably would have killed him because that tank basically has no armor. Now here's back toward us again. Waiting to reload. Now you're gonna see the accuracy of this gun again. Waiting to reload. I'm fully zoomed in. I fire. Once again, shot not even close. A mile away. This is what this gun can do to you. But now it's basically over. There's no way I'm going to reload in time to kill this tank. He's in a pretty good position for me anyway, and there's the match. But now you guys have seen what this gun is capable of doing. You've seen the accuracy, what happens if you do miss. Yet again, I did make pretty good silver on this tank. I fired 4 shots, I believe, and I dealt almost 4,000 damage. But if you're going to go down the artillery line, this is a good artillery to go line. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.